Read Live includes 2 reading interventions that work on phonics. Read Naturally Live, a fluency intervention that also supports comprehension and vocabulary, and in some levels, phonics. And Word Warm-Ups Live, a phonics intervention. In this video, we'll go through several scenarios that demonstrate how to use the results from the Word Warm-Ups Live phonics assessment and the Read Naturally Live placement test to help determine which of these interventions are appropriate for a student. The phonics assessment can be printed from the Word Warm-Ups Live page when a staff member logs into Read Live. The built-in placement test can be accessed from the Read Naturally Live page in the staff member module. Other videos explain the mechanics of conducting the Word Warm-Ups phonics assessment and the Read Naturally placement test. This video focuses on interpreting the results. Let's get started by considering B. Her teacher, Mr. Carr, has observed that B needs to improve her fluency, but she doesn't need phonics support. Since he's confident that B needs only fluency support, Mr. Carr skips the phonics assessment. Instead, he tests her using the placement test. Then, he places B in one of the recommended sequenced or idioms levels. Next, let's look at the phonics assessment results for Casey. His fluency isn't an issue, but he doesn't even attempt to decode unknown words and he's struggling with spelling. Since Casey needs only phonics help, Mr. Carr tested him with the phonics assessment to find Casey's earliest phonics need. Casey doesn't need fluency intervention, so Mr. Carr didn't administer the placement test. The phonics assessment identified Casey's earliest phonics need as consonant blends with short vowels. The scoring worksheet recommends placing Casey in Word Warm-Ups Level 1, Section F. To put Casey in Section F, Mr. Carr logs in and goes to the Word Warm-Ups Live page. He finds Casey in the list and gives him access to Word Warm-Ups. Then, Mr. Carr scrolls over, clicks Edit, and chooses the level and section recommended on the scoring worksheet. Mr. Carr leaves the goal at the default setting, knowing he can change it later based on Casey's performance on the Word Warm-Ups word lists. Now let's consider Ava. Mr. Carr estimates she reads at a 2nd grade level, and she needs support in both phonics and fluency. So Mr. Carr administered both the phonics assessment and the placement test. Her assessment shows Ava's earliest phonics need is long vowels. The scoring worksheet recommends that either Ava be placed in Word Warm-Ups Level 1, Section D, or she be tested at Level 1.5 in the Read Naturally placement test. Both Word Warm-Up Section D and the recommended Read Naturally phonics level work on long vowels. Why the 2 options? Instead of working on phonics and Word Warm-Ups and fluency in Read Naturally, there's a chance Ava could work on both skills at the same time using the phonics series in Read Naturally Live. This would be a more efficient use of Ava's time than placing her in both programs. Since he estimates that Ava reads at a 2nd grade level, Mr. Carr would have started Ava's placement test at Level 2.0 if she didn't need phonics instruction. But instead, he began testing Ava at Level 1.5 as recommended based on her phonics assessment results. On her test, Ava scored within the placement range for Level 1.5. So this level is a good fit for her fluency instruction. And based on her phonics assessment results, the corresponding phonics level, 1.3b, is a good fit for her earliest phonics needs as well. On placement step 3, Mr. Carr selects the long vowels phonics level for Ava. He doesn't need to assign her Word Warm-Ups Live. By placing Ava in the phonics series of Read Naturally Live, she can more efficiently work on both her phonics and fluency skills together. What if Ava's results on the placement test showed that the testing level recommended by the phonics assessment was not a good fit for her fluency needs? Let's look at that scenario. Based on Ava's phonics assessment results, the recommended placement testing level is 1.5. But suppose the placement test doesn't recommend that she work in that level. In that case, Mr. Carr continues testing Ava to find the appropriate read naturally level for her fluency. Later, he'll go to the Word Warm-Ups Live page and assign her Word Warm-Ups Level 1, Section D to work on long vowels. In Read Naturally Live, once the placement test recommends a level that is a good fit, Mr. Carr chooses the sequence series for Ava. In this scenario, the phonics series options for Ava's reading level don't match her earliest phonics needs, so she'll be working on long vowels separately in Word Warm-Ups. Since Ava will be working in both programs, Mr. Carr asks her to alternate between completing a Read Naturally Live story and then completing a Word Warm-Ups exercise. He could instead have her work for the first 10 minutes of each Read Live session on Word Warm-Ups Live and then switch over to working on Read Naturally Live. Another option would be to ask Ava to switch over to Word Warm-Ups Live when she's waiting for him in Read Naturally Live, instead of playing Wordtastic. Finally, let's look at a shortcut for some students. Students with an estimated reading level at or above 3rd grade should work separately in Read Naturally Live for fluency and in Word Warm-Ups Live for phonics. That's the case for Evan, a 4th grader. Mr. Carr estimates Evan reads at a mid-3rd grade level. Evan's phonics assessment results show that the earliest skill in which he has difficulty is R-controlled vowels. The scoring worksheet shows that Evan could be tested for fluency placement in level 2.5, but Mr. Carr is confident that Evan reads above a 2nd grade level, so he assigns Evan the Word Warm-Up section recommended on the phonics assessment scoring worksheet. Then Mr. Carr tests Evan using the placement test to find an appropriate level to build Evan's fluency. Instead of using the phonics assessment's recommended testing level of 2.5, Mr. Carr begins placement testing with his own estimate of Evan's reading level, 3.5, and continues until he finds an appropriate Read Naturally level for Evan. We've just seen that B, Casey, Ava, and Evan each require a different instructional approach. With proper assessment and placement, Read Live can meet their varied needs.